It was a blistering summer evening in Paris. For weeks, the city had been simmering under a relentless heat wave. The streets abandoned, the air heavy and still. Even the great Louvre stood in silence, its marble halls emptied, its treasures resting, untouched. But for one man, this was the perfect moment to move. As the city slept beneath the molten sky, he slipped into the shadows and carried out what would soon be called the heist of the century. With precision and nerve, he lifted the Mona Lisa from her frame and vanished into the Parisian night. What followed was chaos, a global manhunt, 2 years of false leads, dead ends, and the arrest of the most unlikely suspects. Until one day, a mysterious letter surfaced, and the truth behind the theft began to unravel. Tonight, we'll take you inside that story. How one man dared to steal the world's most famous painting, how he nearly got away with it, and the incredible plan that stayed hidden for decades. As the sun set on that fateful Sunday evening, the legend began. A thief in disguise. As the last few tourists drifted out of the Louvre, the Grand Museum began to quiet. But just before the doors closed, a man stepped inside, wearing the crisp white uniform of a Louvre employee. He looked ordinary, invisible, exactly what he needed to be. Moving with purpose, he slipped into a small storage room, closed the door behind him, and waited, all night long. The following day, the museum remained shut. Only a handful of workers roamed its endless halls. It was the perfect day to vanish in plain sight. At precisely 7:15 a.m., the man emerged from the shadows. The Louvre was silent, almost hauntingly still. He made his way through the echoing corridors until he reached the Salon Carré. And there it was, the Mona Lisa. Back then, she wasn't the global icon she is today, just another masterpiece among thousands. But that was about to change forever. With no witnesses, the man lifted the painting from its mount, carefully carried it into a nearby stairwell, and, with a simple screwdriver, freed it from its protective frame. He wrapped the legendary canvas in a white sheet, his disguise flawless, his timing perfect. But just as he reached the final door to freedom, it wouldn't budge, locked. For one breathless moment, the greatest art thief in history was trapped inside the Louvre. Just as the thief reached for the locked door, fate threw him a lifeline. A Louvre plumber suddenly appeared from down the hall, completely unsuspecting. Seeing the man in a white uniform, he assumed he was one of his own. Without a second thought, he turned the key and opened the door. And in that quiet, almost casual moment, the greatest art thief in history walked out of the Louvre with the Mona Lisa hidden beneath his arm. No alarms, no chase, no witnesses. In just a few minutes, the most famous painting in the world had vanished. But here's the twist. No one would notice for another 28 hours. That week, photographers had been moving paintings around to capture official museum shots. So, seeing an empty space on a wall? Nothing unusual. But when they returned the next morning and realized the Mona Lisa wasn't among the pieces to be photographed, a cold realization swept through the halls. The unthinkable had happened. The Mona Lisa was gone. The worldwide search for the Mona Lisa. When news broke that one of the Louvre's most treasured masterpieces had vanished, the world froze. Headlines blazed across every newspaper, and one question echoed everywhere. Where was the Mona Lisa? Inside the museum, investigators searched for answers, but all they found was an empty wooden frame and a single fingerprint left behind by the thief. Desperate for leads, local newspapers announced a massive reward, a staggering $250,000 for any clue that could bring the painting home. And that's when the madness began. Letters flooded in from across the globe, each claiming to know the secret of the missing masterpiece. People swore they'd seen it. In Italy, in America, even hidden in private collections. The investigation had ignited a worldwide frenzy, and the legend of the Mona Lisa was only just beginning. Famous suspects in the Louvre heist. Two witnesses stepped forward, both claiming they'd seen a man leaving the Louvre, carrying something large beneath his arm. But their descriptions? Completely different. No one could agree on who the thief really was. Rumors began to swirl. One report insisted the Mona Lisa was hidden aboard a freight train bound for Belgium. Another claimed it had already set sail across the Atlantic, heading for America. And then the investigation took a shocking turn. The name Pablo Picasso surfaced. A former secretary wrote to the police confessing that Picasso had once purchased stolen Iberian statues, pieces that, as it turned out, had been taken straight from the Louvre itself. When the serial numbers matched, it was undeniable. The great Picasso was dragged in for questioning. Meanwhile, suspicion shifted overseas, to none other than American banker and art collector J.P. Morgan. At the time, art forgery was booming, and whispers spread that Morgan had commissioned the heist himself, eager to claim the world's most famous painting for his private collection. Police raced to intercept a ship docking in New York, searching every corner, every crate. But there was no Mona Lisa. Theories flooded in from every corner of the world, each one more elaborate than the last. And yet, after 2 long years, the truth remained buried. The Mona Lisa had vanished, without a trace. As it turned out, the Mona Lisa hadn't traveled far at all. In fact, she'd been hiding just 2 miles from the Louvre, inside a modest Paris apartment belonging to Vincenzo Perugia, a 29-year-old Italian handyman who once worked inside the museum itself. He knew every corner of the Louvre, every weakness, every secret. He knew the museum was closed on Mondays. He knew when the photographers would be there. And the protective glass case that once held the Mona Lisa, he was the one who built it, which is why he could take it apart so easily. After walking out of the Louvre that fateful morning, Perugia hid the painting inside a trunk, fitted with a false bottom, one he'd built with his own hands. But the real mystery was how he managed to stay hidden for so long. You see, Perugia already had a criminal record. His fingerprints were in the system, but only from his right hand. The print left on the Mona Lisa's frame was from his left, and so the connection was never made. Police even visited his apartment twice, searching for clues, and yet the priceless masterpiece was there all along, lying quietly beneath their feet. Perugia had pulled off one of the simplest yet most astonishing heists in history. And for 2 long years, he kept the Mona Lisa locked away, his secret treasure. But over time, his pride turned to impatience. In a moment of reckless ambition, he wrote an anonymous letter to an art dealer in Florence, the city where Leonardo da Vinci first painted the masterpiece. He signed it simply, Leonardo. The dealer agreed to meet him at his hotel, where Perugia, trembling with excitement, lifted the false floor of his trunk and revealed the real Mona Lisa, untouched. The dealers confirmed its authenticity and promised him a reward for returning it to Italy. But instead of riches, came betrayal. An hour later, the police stormed into his room and placed him under arrest. Perugia spent just 7 months behind bars. He died 10 years later and took many of his secrets with him. But the story didn't end there. In 1932, a journalist named Carl Decker published an account that revealed something far more elaborate behind the theft. He claimed to have known the true mastermind, Edoardo de Valfierno, a professional art forger with an audacious plan. Valfierno had commissioned 6 perfect copies of the Mona Lisa, each destined for a different millionaire in America. But for the forgeries to be convincing, the original had to disappear. So he hired Perugia to make it happen. When the real painting vanished from the Louvre, the counterfeit Monas were sold to their eager buyers, each one believing they'd purchased the genuine masterpiece. By the time the truth began to surface, Valfierno and his partners had vanished too, along with what would be worth over $90 million today. A simple theft, a global deception, and a legend that would forever change the art world.